I think at the beginning, the partnership between these two fractions, whether the Rapid Support Forces or the military junta controlling the Sudanese army as part of the Islamic fundamentalists who seized power in 1989. The partnership between them is very fragile. They have many times conflicts, disagreement, struggle between them that started from day one. They are competing on who would monopolize the power in Sudan, who would seize the control of the resources in the country and the goods. It's a complete struggle about resources and about power. They need to take over in order to protect their economic, financial power they both built through the 30 years with the regime of Omar al-Bashir. They still have companies, big companies, banks, monies looted from the National Bank of Sudan, and they need to control it and they need to keep it. So for them, the upcoming civil rule in Sudan, or civilian government that's erupted after the revolution of December 2019, their position has been very shaky according to the demands of the revolution. They will derail the revolution by all means that they can find, and they will continue to fight against each other to seize power and to seize control alongside their allies. Actually, each of them built international and regional pacts with some regional forces who have interest in Sudan's resources as well, who started looting, plundering the wealth of Sudan during the reign of these two groups. And I think this is the core reason for them. They're fighting for power and for resources. Actually, there are many players around Sudan beyond the neighboring countries. There are international players. If you remember, for example, the first support that was given to the Rapid Support Forces was from the European Union during the Khartoum process that was established by the African Union. At that time, Hemeti has been given military support, power, money, actually to stop migrants from crossing through Libya to the Mediterranean and to Europe. He used that those money and resources. Actually, he committed crimes, violations of rights that the whole international community kept quiet about it. This is the first stage where the international power are playing with these two forces. Hemeti had been to visit to Russia and met Putin. He has the group of Wagner supporting him, training his militias. Al-Burhan, the head of the military junta, also, he used to visit Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and to take orders about everything. We know that they are mingling with the Sudanese resources. There's a lot of looting, smuggling of Sudanese gold. And we remember that the resistance committee in the north, when they toppled the trade between Sudan and Egypt, it affects the Egyptian severely. It stops looting a lot of resources, including agricultural resources. And this is one of the issues that really harm the alliance between these two groups, the Rapid Support Force and the military junta, and their other allies regionally and internationally. So it goes actually even beyond that, who would support their internal wars also. We've seen that Hemeti is standing by the Ethiopian when it comes to the Fashaga region that was liberated by Burhan. So the conflict in every bits and pieces of political spectrum of the country. So they had this conflict from early time, and they had these alliances. And I think they ignite the war. This current war is ignited by this interest, regionally, internationally, including the interest of these two groups. But I know for certain that Omar al-Bashir, before his demise, days before that, he was in Moscow, and that al-Burhan continued that path of cooperation with Putin. That's a fact. But people know, the Sudanese people really know that there are other people playing at the back of these two groups. This is what actually al-Burhan had said, that we are not going to stop until we finish them. Hemeti himself, he said, I'm not staying, I'm not allowing the Muslim fundamentalists to take over. And this is his claim now, as if he's an outsider to them. And he starts calling them names. And I think it is now reaching a point that they might not give into each other at all until one of them will take over. Then the war will stop. I believe it's very complex. We never know what role can the international community play to actually topple this war, because the people are start suffering severely. Thousands of people are leaving Khartoum, trying to find a safe place, safe haven, and I think it's really taking a toll on the people and in the country. The majority of Sudanese people are calling for ending this war. They're calling that this war, they are not part of this war. This is a war on resources and power and interest. It has nothing to do with the civilian Sudanese, and they should not bear the brunt of this war. They call for forming an alliance against war. Also, they start calling for restoring a civilian government, and that the army should go to the barracks and the militia should be dissolved. So this is the majority of Sudanese people stand right now. They know that they suffer a lot, and they believe that this is a third or fourth genocide against them by uncontrollable power of militia and army and military men from the Islamic Front, from the hostage regime. No less, no more, no less. And I think it's time to build a strong alliance. It's time to look at how much they reach to the framework of agreement that has some gaps on it, that they need to really rethink it and look at it and try to build a comprehensive front to actually challenge this military regime and challenge the rapid support forces and build a real civilian rule in Sudan that takes the military out of power and also out of the cities. The military bases should not be in the cities, close to the people. And now we see the repercussions of having military bases in Khartoum, military bases in Marawi, close to the civilian people. And I think people, once this war has ended, maybe this is the end of the road for these two powers, because they're just destroying Sudan. They're just committing atrocity after another, violation after another, killing, massacre, and they never stopped. And I believe this might be the end of the road for them, hopefully. This is a proxy war. Without the alliances from regional and international actors, both would never be able to actually acquire this wealth, companies, and actually weapons. We remember that Hemeti, the leader of the Janjaweed, which is just changed their name to Rapid Support Force, had bragged openly in his speech, telling the Sudanese people that he has the most sophisticated weapons. He is not buying cheap weapons from any place. He's buying the best from the best. And I believe this is what has happened now. How the international and regional community has impacted this war in Sudan, how they emboldened a militia that was indicted in 2004 by the Security Council Resolution 1556 as committing genocide in Darfur. It is the same militia that committed other atrocities and massacres in Sudan and continue to do so by this war. And I think the international community had the memory is completely absent, where they know that Sudan is under siege by this militia that kills people everywhere. They did that in Yemen. They were sent to Yemen. They were sent to Libya. They committed violations there. They killed and committed violations against the refugees from Eritrea and Ethiopia. They will continue to kill. They started looting now in Sudan. This is not a war that really only impact them or give them gains, but it will actually impact the Sudanese people severely and change their life forever by the atrocities that they saw, but the killing, but the brutality and the torture they receive from the hands of this power. I think they should immediately side with the Sudanese people's demand, with the demand of the revolution. This is the demands of the majority of the Sudanese people. And this is the demands of civilian rule that can preserve their rights, that can build the country, that can build a path for development that's fair and inclusive for every Sudanese people. They can actually help them preserve the rights to their wealth, to their resources, without being plundered by powerful regional bodies. And I think the support of the country should be extended to any demands for reinstating a real civilian government. They should stop supporting the military, the army in the country, or any other militia forces. We remember that the United Kingdom, for example, a few years before the collapse of the military junta and the Omar al-Bashir, they trained his security group, his security forces, and I believe that the Sudanese have sued the government for doing so at the time. And this is a brutal dictator that should not be supported by military capacity at all. And I think it's very important now for the government that to fully stand behind the real demands of the Sudanese people, the real demands of the revolution, alongside the support of the British people, progressive groups that gave support a lot across the whole path of this war, revolution, and liberation. And they should continue to pledge support to the Sudanese people, because it's eventually going to happen. And I don't believe that the people would settle with another dictator. They have had enough from dictatorship. They have had enough from the alliances that distort the country, that serve their own interests, that forget about the people's rights. It's very strange that Sudan is a big country, a very huge country. It has a strategic position. This is another part that would tempt other international regional forces to have interest in. But also we have, I think it's a very, very rich country beyond people's imagination. We have gold, we have minerals, resources, we have agriculture, massive agricultural potentialities. Agricultural products that we have now, it's also massive. Many countries across North Africa and the Arab world benefit from that. We have the gold that's been smuggled many times. We've seen the Sudanese resistance committee actually getting hold of videos and documents that shows the Wagner group smuggling the gold, that shows the Egyptian trucks smuggling the gold in the wheat sacks, and so on and so forth. There are lots of wealth in this country that can build the country. that can create prosperity and development for the Sudanese people if utilized by the Sudanese people, but it goes outside. It's not there. If you just simply go to the market here, even in Britain, to the supermarkets, we find some products that are originally Sudanese, labeled made in Egypt. Never been in Egypt, and they don't have gum Arabic. The gum Arabic is in the Sudan, 60% of the world production coming from Sudan. So it's complete plundering of Sudanese wealth that happens from every part, that's surrounding the country. And I think this wealth is able to help Sudan to prosper economically and politically. And it needs to be given back to the people. I think the UN is playing a good role, but it's not effective because they were not able to bring people together, to have a comprehensive agreement that everybody agreed on. The first agreement has actually excluded lots of people. The security arrangement that they built, actually, it was serving only the interest of Hemiti and the small liberation armies. And I think they need to just get the grip of the Sudan's political map in order to bring everybody in. And I think they need to prioritize some agenda that the Sudanese people care about in the first place, before going to set an arrangement that still people are conflicting on. But I think anyway, they are doing a good job trying to do that, while the framework agreement has many holes in it. And this is one of the issues that led to them not being able to establish a government. The military junta couldn't establish any government, and the framework agreement, the late one, was not able to reach a full agreement to establish a civilian government because of the holes in it. And I think the UN should continue its efforts to build a comprehensive agreement among all the people who contributed to this revolution, and also to start seriously bringing them together rather than having an agreement that exclude any one outside of it. The other important thing is that now the agreement, the Communist Party is not part of it. Many other leftist groups are not part of it. And we know that this revolution has been built on the slogans that were developed by the members of the Communist Party and the leftist group. It's a very progressive revolution that really calls for people control of their wealth. They call for an economic path of development that support building public sectors that are strong, that serve the peoples. So you'll find enemies from everywhere when you do this, and there are these private multinationals, people who have interest in corporate work and finances, that they need to seize also power on the finances in the country. They won't be happy with the slogans of the revolution, but I think the slogans will continue and should be supported no matter what, as these are the demands of the Sudanese people. I just hope that the people will support Sudanese people in their path for a civilian rule. I hope there is a stronger support to end this war, to force these two groups to stop the war they are leading, this proxy war by the other international regional groups. We hope that the other regional groups that have some hands in continuing this war to lift their hands from Sudan and start listening to the people's demands.